Get in, bitch. We're getting gilded.
It's the sweltering summer of 1861, and so where else would the president's wife, Mary Todd Lincoln, come to take a little R&R after the first Battle of Bull Run than right here in the Branch. This was the Newport of its day, and in fact she stayed here at the Mansion House, which was a prominent hotel on the coast. She took 2 dips in the ocean, and she brought her sons Tad and Robert along for the trip. And so that's the start of our Gilded Age journey here in Long Branch, New Jersey.
Mary Todd Lincoln makes the Branch a trending spot in the 1860s. So she comes here after the first Battle of Bull Run, in which the Confederacy wins. But it's very interesting because she has siblings that fight for the Confederacy, and Lincoln is kind of like this man divided. And Mary Todd, as crazy as she was, wanted to come to the Branch, as it was nicknamed, because it was perceived to be almost like the Monte Carlo of its day. And there were hundreds of, eventually, over time, wealthy families that would come here and they would relax, have some R&R. Long Branch actually had a little nudie tootie fresh and fruity beach. If you didn't know, now you do. So they would fly flags, and they had like red and white flags, and depending on the day and what flag was flown, if there was one flag and not the other, males only would be allowed to swim in the buff, so to speak, and then the other was like a co-mixed swimming beach, which is just interesting to me because you imagine Victorians to be like prim and proper, and here we all are out in the nudie tootie. Over 7 U.S. presidents came to Long Branch because it was that hashtag trending, and so we're going to take a look at the church in which they all used to worship, which is pretty interesting. Of the 7 presidents in Long Branch, a beautiful structure that was deconsecrated as a church in the 1950s. But this building is a lasting pinnacle to the Gilded Age here in Long Branch. Over 7 U.S. presidents worshipped here. That is more worshiping presidents than any church outside of Washington, D.C., and it's located right here in Jersey. In fact, Ulysses S. Grant was the first president to worship here after he started spending his summers in Elberon. Elberon was the pinnacle of places in Long Branch to visit, particularly because of the location of the houses and the Republican coffers that would make it easy for Grant to politicize, walk, converse, and of course get some good donations for his campaign. It was said that the net worth of the parishioners of this cathedral on any given Sunday in the Gilded Age was over $250 million, with donation plates totaling up to $8,000 on one Sunday. Anybody who's anybody worshipped in Elberon, baby. So famous families like the Vanderbilts and the Grants could be seen here in the summertime as they got some of the natural air conditioning of Long Branch's beautiful Atlantic coast. In fact, Long Branch was littered with a who's who of infamy. People such as Jefferson Davis, famed painter Winslow Homer, Chester A. Arthur, Samuel J. Tilden, Jay Gould, and Jim Fisk were just some of the peoples that the Asbury Park Press hailed in 1910 as visiting the area.
This area of New Jersey was known as the Monte Carlo of its day. It was a rival to Newport, Rhode Island, or Cape May, New Jersey. At the turn of the 20th century, this exuded Gilded Age swagger. And within Long Branch are all these little enclaves, such as Elberon, which was established by a real estate developer named L.B. Brown, who called it Elberon as a play on his own name. This was the nouveau riche alternative to Newport, Rhode Island. This plot of land was once home to St. Catherine Drexel, and yes, we are talking about the heiress who gave up her $7 million fortune to dedicate her life to religion and charitable works. This structure, before being demolished, was built in 1868 and purchased by George Childs, a publisher of the Philadelphia Public Ledger, a close family friend of the Drexels and U.S. Grant, who would eventually move into the building next door. While Grant's summer cottage and surrounding structures are no longer standing, the Gilded Age still glitters throughout Elberon, even through the tallest of fences.
I'm standing outside of the Garfield Tea House, which is located here at the Church of the Seven Presidents. Now, this is not the building that you would have thought Garfield would be sipping a cup of tea inside. Actually, this was built out of the railroad ties from Garfield's special tracks that were built when the mortally wounded president came to Long Branch to get a whiff of some sea air in the hopes that it would clear out the assassin's bullet from his lungs. However, Garfield would end up dying here in Long Branch, which we're going to take a look at on our next stop. But this was actually made out of the railroad ties, and an actor in the area had it built out of these ties. It was originally red, white, and blue. It has since been repainted, obviously, as you see here, red and white. And it has been moved multiple locations, but it finally rests here at the Church of the Seven Presidents. We're going to end our journey at the death site of President James A. Garfield, who in September of 1881 lost his life due to an assassin's bullet. Now, Garfield wasn't assassinated here in Long Branch. He was assassinated in Washington, D.C. by a deranged office seeker by a man by the name of Charles Guiteau. If you're into assassinations, I highly recommend the book Assassination Vacation by Sara Vowell. The link will be down below, in which she talks in detail about the assassination of James A. Garfield, our late president. Garfield is mortally wounded, and he's coming in and out of consciousness and in and out of life, and so finally his doctors decide that it's going to be a smart idea to bring him to Long Branch to get some of that sea air into his lungs, and hopefully, with the help of an inventor, Alexander Graham Bell, get that bullet out of his body. The unfortunate part about Alexander Graham Bell's metal detector is that it also detects the metal springs in your bed. So imagine having 7 doctors sticking their fingers into all different types of orifices in your body in the attempt to eradicate the bullet. But it was here where Garfield ultimately passed away. And so while the structure isn't here anymore, the avenue is named after him. We are right outside of the Church of the Seven Presidents. And to that, I say thanks for tuning in to this episode of The History Chick. If you like what you see, make sure that you like and subscribe, and we'll see you next week.
So that was the Church of the Seven Presidents. I felt like even though the gates were open, because it's like a national landmark since 7 presidents worship there, I know what it feels like to be Nicolas Cage in National Treasure. I really felt it.
Do you think it's haunted?
I think it's haunted by the ghost of racist Woodrow Wilson, who probably is doing penance somewhere for all his egregious sins. Oh my god, it just hissed at me. I don't like that. Okay.
What if there's a body?
I don't know. Of who? James A. Garfield? I don't appreciate
It wants to be your friend.
Do you think that's the cops?
No. That's a